happening right now as we're here and I'm on live with you.
We better make it worth you skipping a game, right? So yeah, like let's get those valley
Definitely.
bombs going and whatnot. But let me just like restart and like give you like another shout out on Instagram. Wait, how do I? Dude, my phone is so dirty. But yeah, what's good, guys? Just going live. Catch us live on YouTube. The link is in the bio. See you guys. Bye bye. All right, let's go. Let's get the party started. I think we are live. Let me just check the stream health. Then we can get the parties and the conversation started. So, oh yeah, it's live. It works. Yeah, the stream is healthy. Let's just like start by announcing that, guys, you can ask us questions. Like so, Mohit will be taking questions towards.
Let's set the agenda here. We'll probably be having a discussion around the topic that is the importance of communication and scales and sales obviously, and how do they gel perfectly well. You
Mhm.
can't be good at either of them
Mhm.
in isolation. It's something that complements each other, right? And that would be basically the discussion points that we'll be having. And towards the end, let's say close to about the end 10 or 5-10 minutes, we'll be answering the questions which have been posted. How do we get to know the questions? They'll be posting it on the YouTube
Yeah,
chat.
and I'm looking at the chat on my phone so that like I'll be able to tell you guys. I'll be able to tell you that like this is the
Uh,
question.
so you can actually dictate the questions and then we can answer it together.
Yeah,
Sounds
that'll
great.
be awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. So whenever I think once we have like enough people, we can start with the discussion. I'll
Yeah.
wait for your cue.
All right. The question.
Let's ask people to drop in a hi on the YouTube chat. Let's get the chat going.
Yeah.
Whoever is live, drop in a hi.
Hey guys, let's hear a hi from anyone that's watching us right now. Let's see it in the chat or spam
Yeah,
F in the chat. Let's go.
yeah, it'll boost our confidence.
Yeah. I'm sure you don't need a confidence boost, dude. Like you sound like a straight up
I
person
like
that's going to dominate
I
everything.
don't need confidence. I just need an audience.
Yeah, dude, makes sense. But like this video is also going to be promoted heavily, so like you don't worry about the audience, right? But yeah, 33 people
Who's
are
more
watching
an
us live
audience
right
than I
now.
am? Yeah.
Yeah. Guys, what happened to the Avalon event thing? I thought so many individuals are just borderline hide. Okay, now there's a burst of audience. Now we've reached 40 count.
Okay, we can 40 is there, huh? 50
Yeah.
will go basically in the session.
Alright, guys, share the link with your friends, guys. Just promote it. What can be the career
Because
aspects? Okay, like
have
you're
you
already
read all the
receiving
books
questions, dude.
have you read all the books which are stacked behind you?
Not everyone. Like there were a few ones. Like so, I'll give you one book that I stopped reading as soon as I like picked it up like on day one. It was The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham, because as soon as I started reading that book, I knew that that book is not going to be of any use till the day I actually have a lot of capital to invest. So I'll like pick that book again, and then again I also have bought this book. I haven't read it yet, but it's basically for emergency. Like if I like need to go there negotiate deals, it's venture deals.
Got it.
By yeah, so like this book as well is like on my reading list when I need to go out there and negotiate for like
And
raising capital.
have you finished the bottle which is kept right on the top shelf?
Oh no, dude! It's still like about half of it left. So I'll tell you what, right? So I have one of those rituals that I keep whenever I have something to celebrate. So like I bring out a Cuban, and then like I pour myself like a single malt, and then like I just rejoice that like I've done something good. So it's one of those things that I do like like maybe 4 times in a year, because usually you have something to celebrate like every quarter. So yeah. But like I haven't really opened this bottle like after my birthday, because like COVID has like completely made everything redundant and whatnot. So yeah.
I think that's great. As long as you're having a small celebrating session with your own self, I think that's a great habit to have. Cool. I think we're good to go.
Yeah.
Can
We
we start
have.
the session?
Yeah, sure. We have 48 people, so we're almost 50. So let's go.
there is like a very minuscule amount of distortion, and I'm not sure if it's from
Oh wait,
my
I think no no no. I think it's not the distortion. I think it's my AC in the background. Wait one sec. Uh, where is the
no, no,
remote?
it's the seamless. It's not seamless. The video, it's breaking in the middle, but now it's clear. It's much better right now.
Okay. I'm just checking the stream. Oh wait, wait. One sec. I let me just like fix a couple of things. OBS video capture device. Just mute that. This is working fine. Let's go back to the Zoom. Yeah. I just got rid of myself from the bottom right of the screen that was there during the session, and I just forgot to like unpin it. But yeah, I think we can start the session and like let's get the party started so that you don't waste too much of your match.
Yes. S- So we're gonna start with probably the topic is how sales and communications they complement each other, right? So today being Teachers Day, first shout out to all my English teachers. I think of all the teachers that I've gotten throughout my school and college years, right? I think I had a very good rapport with the English teachers. Also because the kind of love I share for English language for that matter. I'll share some facts with you, which I came across online. That until you're in 12th, some people call it plus one, plus two, some people call it junior college. From uh, from the from the class or from the age when you shift from a sphere when you're in 8th, 9th, 12th to college, at that particular stage in your life, you're almost learning close to about 15 to 20 new words per
Mm-hmm.
day.
Yeah.
Okay, and as you education. Now, a lot of people don't read books, right? A lot of people like to consume visual content. A lot of people like to read simple articles. So when you I would say get older, right? That frequency of learning newer words, it decreases or depreciates significantly, and that becomes one of the crucial reasons that towards the latter end of your stage, because for most of the communicators, right, I would say communicators, for people who boast or who take pride in their communication skills, they've not always been great at it.
True.
Let's say in 5th or in 10th, maybe they weren't that fluent, but what they did was, in terms of improving their vocabulary,
Mm-hmm.
they kept working on it in terms of reading enough material so that they can brush up their communication skills, and that directly impacts your, I would say, your sense of expression. Now
True.
when I say a sense of expression, right, now this is not just for sales, this is like a very generic thing. For for you to understand me, the amount of time that you will take to understand me, right, that is directly equal to the amount of time that I will take to express myself. And there is a direct, very very strong correlation between these two. And so I don't need to work on your understanding skills. A lot of people get this wrong. They think that that other person does not understand me. Maybe the prospect didn't understand what I was selling to him. But rather than that, if we focus more on that, how can I improve my skills of expressing myself better, right? Automatically he will understand that better. Now moving on to the next part, right, where how do you actually improve your uh, the way you express things so that the other person can understand you seamlessly in a much better way, is being more articulate. Now what do I mean by more articulate? I'll give you an example here. Now let's talk about a very a good feeling, a very great feeling. Like one of the great feelings that I always witness or experience is whenever I am underneath like a starry night. It's there's no light pollution, right? And that
Dude,
feeling is,
envy.
I think it's very enlightening. It's very insightful. It invokes like a lot of thoughts of existentialism inside me. So now, if I have to describe that night, like to you, right? That let's say like a year back, I witnessed that experience again. So I'll give you two examples. One would be that I understand what I'm feeling through. I'm feeling very insightful. I'm feeling very great about that particular feeling. But while I transfer that enthusiasm, transfer that feeling to you, maybe you would not understand it, or maybe you will understand it better. Now, the first example I give you, an average. a person with average communication skills, he will tell that, oh, it was a wonderful night. I felt very, very good. And there were lots of stars. They were twinkling brightly. And it was just wonderful. Now, if you notice, a lot of people actually talk like that. Now, what does that, like, in just the way that I've recited the story, right? You understood the gist of it, but these are multiple sentences which are coupled together. So if I had to write it down, I'm saying something, then there's a full stop. Then I'm saying something again, then there's again a full stop, and it goes on till the end of my particular story. But on the other hand, right? Uh, Good speakers or people who are really good or above average or good, I would say, in expressing themselves, good in communication skills, they would probably like to be more articulate. They would like to use their vocabulary efficiently, because in your hindsight, right, we might know multiple words, we might know the meaning of multiple words, we might know how to use them in sentences, but then while we're speaking, it just doesn't come. It just
True.
stays there, buried deep inside their heads. It never comes out. So obviously it comes out with practice, but generally what happens, most of the words you know, right, are the words you generally don't use in your daily vocabulary or daily sentences. So now, the way I would explain it, right, I would tell you that I think it was be more specific to details. I think it was post 12 that night. It was pitch darkness and I couldn't hear anything. There was minimum light and noise pollution. I could hear something in the background. I'm not sure if it were the trees that were waving, but something very, very peaceful, which was, I think, brushing my memory right now. And in that moment, right, in that moment, I felt extremely happy. And that entire experience, Chaitanya, was surreal. Like, even if I think back, now I'm taken to that particular moment. And now the way I'm communicating myself, right, a lot of people can feel that feeling rather than just knowing the story, coming to a point that feeling the story. Now, this is very, very crucial. Now, correlating that to sales, right? Because how I use this theorem. Now, whenever I say correlating, this is how my brain is wired. There is also a background story to it. I'll tell you how I actually found a lot of success in sales, because I'm an engineer. I've just
Mohit,
studied
your
science, maths,
video
and I was
stopped. Okay, yeah, now it's
engineering.
back. Yeah, awesome.
It's back, yeah.
Yeah.
I was saying, like, throughout my primary education to college, I have always been a science student, right? And the way my thought process is, because of engineering, because of learning science, I think I've spent a good chunk of my years proving that LHS is equal to RHS, because
Left hand
that's
side,
that's
yeah.
what
Left hand
that's what
side,
I
right
did.
hand side, yeah. Yeah.
Huh. And similarly, whenever I have that eureka moment, right, if I discover something, be it logical, be it factual, or be it philosophical, right, I try to imply that theorem into reality, into sales, into whatever I'm doing. And I think that is something which has really, really helped me. Because a lot of people who come from a business background, right, they've been told to assume things, they tend to assume things, they tend to focus on a lot of communication. But I have always been, very ardent about using facts, figures, and something that I strongly adhere by is that logic cannot be defied by anyone or anything. If you believe that you're extremely logical, wherever you imply that, it's going to be, I think, really, really wonderful in sales. So now I think I have prepared something in which, so that we can have a very seamless session. So now I will so I will ask you a question, Chaitanya. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
like, you've been doing this session, or you've been doing this workshop for almost 3 days now,
Yeah, this is
week.
the third year.
So I mean, I really find your communication skills on point. You're really good at it. So what do you think are a couple of points that makes a great communicator, if that's a word? Let's say
See,
great communicator. Let's
okay,
name it down.
okay, so I actually like to I like to draw a line between someone that's a great communicator and someone that can communicate very well, right? So, like to be a great communicator, you need to be able to play with words so smoothly that you can drive individuals' emotions, because like that's what communication is about, right? because a lot of people understand English, they can say perfect sentences, but if you can't get that emotion aroused, like what's the point, right? So to start the foundation, you really need the sentences, but then I think it's just about how very well do you own, like how well are you in understanding other people's emotions and also understand your own emotion when you're trying to convey something. Because if you're like, there are great salesmen that can sell you pretty much anything, but can you feel what you're selling in the moment? Because that translates to your communication, right? For example, to go back, like to the same example that you used about like the surreal night. If I were you, I'd be a little more poetic. So I'd just start, as I sat under the sky, it was midnight, and I saw something super beautiful. It was the Milky Way galaxy, the one thing in the universe that transcends the time at all. Like something like that. Like you get the idea. So I think, like if you're able to feel that, right? Feeling it is really important to start communicating it, because a lot of people, like, if you're completely absent with your own emotions in a speech, you can never get the passion into your own word to get other people passionate, right? That's why the passionate ones are able to get a crowd passionate. So like it's a mixture of a lot of those things, but like the foundation again starts with, like you really need to be able to make sense with every sentence you say. Because if you're making punctuation errors, if you're making grammatical errors, you yourself are not going to feel it because you know you're wrong, right? So it's one of those things. But yeah, like I think, and communication is one of those things that I think everyone can get amazing at. Like, like it's because everyone has it, right? Like irrespective of you being an introverted individual or an extroverted individual, if you're just thorough with your foundation, all it takes is some practice and some level of insight, and anyone can do it.
Correct. And also like that I would say a garnish of confidence is very, very important. And as you rightly said, unless and until you are very clear about your foundation, right? That confidence will not automatically strike you or hit you.
Mohit, one
I
sec.
think yeah, sure.
I think people could hear the AC in the background, and that's what they're saying. So like I just turned it off. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was rightly saying that if the foundation coupled with immense amount of confidence, right? I think they're also very strongly related to each other. The
Mm-hmm.
moment you start believing in your own learnings, or the moment you start realizing that yes, my foundation is clear, I'm getting better at it, that confidence will automatically start seeping in, and you will actually see it in your day-to-day activities or day-to-day communication skills. Now, a lot of people now, since you mentioned that, how do we feel our words, right? How do we feel what we're trying to communicate? So a lot of people might have this question, that how do we do it? How do I express my feeling in the most accurate way or in the most apt way? So I think you partially answered that particular question, that yes, you have to be very, very thorough with whatever you know, at least very, very thorough with your excuse me, your foundation. But something that is very important is that on the other side of you, who's hearing your words or who's hearing whatever you're trying to communicate, is also a human. And they also have that, like, a very limited span of attention, right? Especially when it's either a stranger or someone they don't actually know. So how do we actually captivate them into listening to us, and then understanding what we're saying, and then agreeing to our point? So these are different stages, right? So I'll probably talk about those stages.
Mm-hmm.
Now, luckily for me, right, I've I'll take a couple of examples from my work itself. I think a lot of people could imply that in their day-to-day activities on a professional level. So I've been lucky to work with brands which are quite recognized. So whenever I used to go and meet prospects or any business owner, right, they would have some sort of understanding as to what that brand does. They could connect to that brand, and once that initial
Can
connection
you
is
can
there.
you take some names so like people also get what you're talking about? Can you take some names of the
Sure.
brands
So
that you're
I
talking
work with
about?
Zomato and Cure.Fit, right?
Yeah.
So Zomato and Cure.Fit have been two very recognized startups in the Indian ecosystem. And whenever I used to meet anyone or speak with any I would say random stranger, be it at a party or be it at any meetup, they would understand the gravitas of the brand that I am representing. So the conversation which followed after that, it was relatively easier for me, and hence it laid down the foundation for a very seamless relationship for me and the other person, right? But now most of currently, right, most of the people who are actually have their own thing, or working for a company or working for a brand which is not that recognized, that's where the real problem starts, because they don't know your brand. And unless and until they know your brand, buying that brand is like a far on, it's a distant dream, right?
Mm.
So this is something that I faced when I was in Philippines, because when I went to Philippines, it was a very new geography for me, right? And even Zomato, for that matter, Zomato Gold was the first transactional product that we launched there.
Okay, in
Zomato
Philippines.
existed as a company. Huh. As a company, it existed, but any transactional product did not exist until Zomato Gold. So this was the first time restaurant owners were actually buying something which would directly lead into either people coming into the restaurants or revenue directly floating in. So entering a new geography, meeting a new set of people, meeting, interacting with a totally different culture, right? I think your video paused.
No, I can see you.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it paused for a second. So, as I was saying that when that happened, entire cultural shift, and when I was going there, when I was on my way to Philippines, right, I was a little nervous. Not because not doubting my own skills, but then how will people will they be receptive? Will they understand? Because working in India and working somewhere abroad, there is like a huge difference in terms of trust, in terms of our working culture. So I was like I was like an absolute stranger, not even belonging from their country. Just imagine that someone tells you who's not even from your country, and he comes and tells you how to run your business. I think that itself, for restaurant owners to comprehend that fact, it was very difficult. But something that I did. Now here is where the educative part of the story comes, that whenever you're meeting a random stranger or someone who's not interacted with you, does not know your brand, what are the stages that go on inside his head, and how he will actually give you or put you on a pedestal where he will consider you seriously. First, the first thing that he will notice about you is the way you talk. Is your communication on point? Are you able to express what you're trying to say? Because then comes the next part. How are you articulating your sentences? Because the more time, coming back to our initial point, right, the more time you waste in terms of expressing the initial introduction, that I'm here, I do this, if you're not able to articulate that into like a couple of sentences, the prospect or the guy has already lost his or her
Yeah,
span of
exactly.
attention.
Because yeah, like first two three
That's the
minutes
first.
sum the deal. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the first point. Second thing that he will judge you on is your personality. Now, your personality is a mix of obviously how you carry yourself out, and I'll talk about how you probably carry yourself out in a very in an example that I think most of us could relate to. Uh, a lot of people have asked me this question also, that why do salespeople are dressed in ties and they look like they're carrying like a very slick bag, and they're wearing like very shiny shoes, and
You know,
once you go
like
above
the
30, right?
hair are like greased back, just like making sure that formal
Exactly.
look. Yeah.
If you heighten this to like a Wall Street broker, they would have their fancy cars, and I know for that matter that some people cannot even afford that car, but still they have that car. Now, how does that impact your personality? Is obviously they're not. A lot of people think that just they're materialistic, they're mad about money. For a random person to trust you, right? When I say trust you, where does that trust lead to? Is basically investing in yourself. Now, if you're selling me something, or if you're pitching me something, it's basically me investing either my time, my capital, or my money directly on you, right? So, unless and until I establish that fact that Chaitanya is a person who does not invest in himself, if you're not well groomed, if you're not I would say, if your personality is not charming, and if it doesn't strike a chord with me, and if I figure out that this guy is a person who doesn't even invest in himself, why should I invest in you?
True.
And I think that's the key, and that's a very very key point, which where most of the sales folks, right? So even if I when I remember like my first day at Zomato, I wore a jeans and I wore a shirt, jeans and a shirt, normal jeans and a shirt, and my shirt wasn't tucked in. Like, and I thought it's a startup.
Yeah.
That's how everybody left in startups, right?
College guy
And
just walking in. Yeah.
yeah, I was very young then, and my team lead, uh, in front of the entire crowd, he's like, "Don't come to office without a tucked in shirt ever." And I, I I felt offended because I saw a lot of people whose shirts weren't tucked in. But later on, I realized that for any client-facing roles, for any roles where people will judge you and people will judge your company on the way you carry yourself out, I think it's very, very important to having that. I would say a very, very charming personality, and it's not about looks. For someone who thinks that it's about looks, it's absolutely not about looks. You have to be hygienic, you have to be well groomed, and I think that does most of your job in
Yeah,
terms of
I
anything,
think it's
right?
not about looking the best, it's about looking your best. And I think that speaks
Exactly.
miles about a person, yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sneakers and those funky clothes are not looking at your
Yeah,
best. A lot of
yeah.
people actually think that, but then in a very, very professionally respectable way, I think that's the way to go about it. And coming back to our initial point of discussion, that once the person or the prospect has judged you based on your communication, based on your personality, then comes the conversational skills. Now there is a huge difference between communication skills and conversational skills. It's the directly what I will tell you, the difference between a monologue and a dialogue.
Exactly. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a very simple reason that if I hadn't done what I've done in the past 6 7 years, uh, what I have launched or what I have earned for myself, right? No one would be actually keen on listening to my experiences if I was just another random guy, right? So that is the sort of credibility that I've built over the last 6 7 years that compels people to probably, yes, yeah, ye banda hai, he thinks the right way, or yeah, he makes sense. And that is the sort of buy-in I need from people, right? If I'm imparting any sort of education, and this is just value delivered right to them, right? If they don't understand what I have done, if they do not believe in my credibility, I'd be labeled as one of those zillions people who are doing this on Instagram, or sales gurus or sales teachers.
Exactly.
And that is something very very important, is because of that credibility that I've maintained. And why have I maintained that credibility? The immense amount of success that I've received is because of conversational skills. Now, coming back to what do I actually mean by a communication skills versus conversation skills? Communication skills would be directly knowing your foundation. I think you've already covered that, being very very apt with what you're trying to express. Conversation skills, on the other hand, are, it cannot be learned, it cannot be acquired, but you need to know as to when to speak, when to listen. That clear balance you need to know. And how do I extract information from you? That is a very very key point. So I think I mentioned that on my LinkedIn as well. An ideal pitch, right? If you see most of the movies, if you see most of the sales dialogues, it's actually a monologue. Like, even if you remember, it's the most famous, the cold call, right, of Leo in that also is more or less a monologue. But in actuality, in reality, what happens, right? It's the ideal pitch is a conversation. Now, I'll tell you how the thing, or how people actually think when they're buying anything, because I've been sold multiple times. I have bought multiple things which I have really wanted to. So whenever you want to buy something, right, that decision is automatically made, and that is called from the existence phase to, I would say, an acceptance phase. That you know that a product exists, and now you've accepted the fact that you want that product. So that transition happens very quickly. from that moment until the point you actually end up paying for that particular product or service, it's your brain rationalizing that decision.
Yeah, true.
Let's say, if you go and buy a car, right? If you want to buy a car, you will go to a car showroom, right? That means you've
True.
already made the decision
Yeah.
that you will buy a car.
Or you're
But
considering
most
that you're going to buy a specific car, that's why you're in the showroom. Mm.
exactly. So you've already made your decision. Now, what your brain does is it will help you to rationalize that decision. And that's where a seller comes into the picture. If the guy understands your problem through his communication and conversation skills, he understands what your pain points are, what your budget is, what your favorite color is, why do you need a car? Is this your first car? Is this your second car? Should you buy a second hand car? Should you buy a new car? If he understands all these problems, right? So your brain will automatically be rationalized and you will end up paying for that product. But if the person is not able to do that, example, you just enter a car store and the guy flaunts that, oh, you look great, I think you deserve a BMW, it's our newest model, and without even letting you speak, right, he pitches BMW, which is probably 50, 60 lakh, and I don't have the budget right now. Even though I wanted to buy a car, my brain couldn't rationalize that. I think you paused again.
No, yeah, like I'm not
Yes,
sure who it was, but yeah, like there was a
you're back.
discount. Yeah. Yeah. But Mohit, just a reminder, we have 6 minutes on this Zoom
Yeah.
call.
So as
We
I
have
was
six
saying,
minutes left on the Zoom call. We'll have to either start a new one or you can take questions.
I think we can take questions. I think I've communicated whatever I wanted to say, and just wrapping. I'll take another couple of minutes in terms of just
Yeah.
recapping whatever we went through. So, how does communication actually help you? What is the importance of communication? Excuse me. It's gonna take you. Uh, it's gonna take you distance in your career, and probably it will help you skip a couple of roles, a couple of positions if you're working. How does that actually help? Because if you have the confidence to raise your opinions, raise your thoughts, a larger cohort understands your thought process and considers you for a bigger role or a greater position.
True.
And that's how you jump ladders. Secondly, if you have the confidence to voice your opinion, that these are a couple of key skills that a leader possesses. So if you're at an individual contributor role, if you have a mix of conversation communication skills and you're smart also, then for you to jump from a individual contributor to a team lead, that process or that path becomes easier for you if you possess these skills. So extremely important skills, especially in the modern world that we live in. Your work has to be defined by your words. I think that is something very, very important. So I think we can take a couple of questions now.
Okay, wait. Let me ask you one question. Okay, on the scale of 1 to 10, how much would you rate my pitch to you?
I think your pitch has always been between 7 to 10. I won't have an exact number because you've given so many pitches, but
No, no,
it's
no, no.
always been
The
on the
one
higher
the
side
one
of the
for the
medium.
one the
So
one
if
for
you are,
this one. No, the one for this one. Like the four videos I sent you on IG.
oh, that was great. Like because no one sends me videos actually,
Yeah.
so that was something new. People generally texting. Even I prefer texting, right? So since you took that effort of
Yeah, I
sending
was
me
like,
video,
dude, let's just go. Yeah, but okay, let's take a couple
and
of questions.
I would have felt really bad if I had said no to you.
Really? Why? Like, I'm really glad, but why?
You did the effort of sending videos to me.
Yeah. Oh, like that's another perspective I'll like keep in mind from now on. So I'm going to like just double down on what I'm doing now. But yeah, okay. Let's take our.
I think effort is always rewarded. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Vanshika Patel asking how to be well articulated, how to articulate your thought.
So how do you articulate your thoughts? Is so there is in my previous company, I took a session on it's called opening up by writing it down. Now, what do I mean by that? It's basically if you find it hard to articulate your thoughts, that is a very normal thing for any human to witness, right? Because your brain is always working, it's processing multiple thoughts, and sometimes to pick that one thought and focus on that thought becomes really, really hard. So if you start writing a thought down, right? once you're writing things on paper, you will only focus on what you're writing. And that's why if you go back in your early learning days, people would always used to suggest that you should write while learning so that you could remember things better. And once you start writing things down, the way you articulate your thought process, it will actually get better. And once you think it's reached a level that you can articulate your thoughts without writing it down, your brain will automatically be conditioned to think like that.
Okay, I think that
So use
answers.
writing.
I think that
I think
answers the
a lot
question
of
really
people.
well. Yeah, true.
I think, and more often that people should do is use writing as a therapy. I do that because it's basically writing is you talking to yourself. Not
Yeah.
a lot of people realize that writing is basically you talking to yourself, and you should do it more often.
We have 2 minutes left. So okay. Do you want to extend this Zoom call because a lot of people are saying that like bring him back, or we can move this conversation to Discord while you watch the match, and like people can hit you up with questions.
No, it's fine. We can extend this Zoom call.
Like okay, wait.
Let it keep streaming.
Okay, like
Why
so
don't
is
we
it
just
going to get like extended by itself, or is it going to drop? Because like I've never seen a call drop. Like is it going to drop in 2 minutes, or is it going to get extended on its own?
does it say that it's gonna drop?
No, it doesn't say anywhere. Well, let's just wait for it then. But guys, anyone
Let
that's watching the stream right now, I encourage you guys to check the description. I've linked everything Mohit has. Follow him on Instagram. Check his podcast. He has released his podcast where he's actually trying to change the narrative of sales in India. Sales as a career is looked down upon, and I don't understand why. It's the revenue generating stream for every business. Sales is probably the most thing for any business, and I just don't like I can't comprehend why people look down on that career. And like his first
well,
podcast was amazing, and I encourage all of you to listen to it. It's mentioned in the description. And go ahead, Mohit.
and I'll also tell you why is sales looked down upon in India. So if I roll back your years, right? What is the earliest memory that you have of a salesperson?
Dude, I probably met a salesman while I was, like holding my mom's chunni in like a sales shop, and like the person was like showing suits and whatnot. That's like probably the first ever interaction with a
And
salesperson.
that is your first experience.
Yeah, probably like as a 4 or 5 year.
So I think, hmm, and how much time do you think that stereotype takes from your head to go into the market? Because all of us have had the same experience initially. And people who don't venture into the sales ecosystem, they will live, they will die with that same stereotype that this is what salespeople do: door-to-door salesmanship, or someone will call me on the phone, or probably
Oh,
someone will
dude,
come
dictionary.
knock at my door.
Someone used to sell dictionary, dude. Dictionary.
I
That was
feel
no. I'm saying dictionary as well. Like that's also probably one of the first-hand experiences I had with the salesman. Like someone knocking on the door. Do you want to buy Oxford ki dictionary, or like do you want to buy an
exactly.
encyclopedia? Yeah, yeah, true.
And now, as you grow up, right, you will
Mm-hmm.
directly correlate that salesmanship into what salesmanship is in the Indian ecosystem, and that's a stereotype that I'm trying to break.
Okay, like so since we're extending this, let's just like take 4 or 5 more questions so that like you can answer them really quickly and whatnot. So, tips for a startup pitch deck by Tejaswini
So
Admane.
two things that if the startup is products, so like it could have a proof of work, and it has to be a very very clear proof of work. What do I mean by proof of work? That you have an idea. That's great. Uh, an idea help gauge will help gauge the investor's interest. But again, it wouldn't rationalize his brain to invest money. Proof of work is something very important, that your idea works in that particular cohort that you're trying to make it work. That is one way. Now, uh, if you're raising, I would say, capital after starting your company, after getting your product live, then numbers, right? And sometimes it's not huge numbers, but numbers in that particular span or in that particular duration that I've managed, let's say, 30,000 USD in a month. Some people might say I've managed like 100,000 across a year, but your run rate, right, is much better than them. So that gives a clear idea in terms of the investor's head, in terms whether they should actually invest in this or not. And the last thing is that over a period of time, people who tend to give more focus on the data, because data science in the last couple of years and even in the future, it's going to be the new science that everyone would want to venture into. So how at all data touch points of your product or service, how do you record them, how do you analyze them, and how do you present it? So I think if these 3 points are on core, obviously considering that you're solving a relevant problem, I think it's good to go, because I've got like a lot of uh, investor decks, like pitch decks that startup send to investors. I have sourced that from my friends just to understand as to what do they actually pitch, and these are a couple of points that most of them mention in terms for them to raise money.
That's an amazing. That's an amazing insight. Yeah. All right. So next question is, how do we essentially work upon our storytelling skills? Right, Ridhima Taneja?
In front of a mirror.
In front of a mirror. Okay. Okay,
Yes,
but
that's how
but
you
I'd also
use that.
give you some insight on, like, how you can improve your storytelling skills, Ridhima, if you're watching this. So see, when you look at stories, right, there's one thing that's always common in every story, that they're very easy to understand. So the level of language that's used when you're talking about a story is so elementary that even a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old that's just completely new to the language, they could understand. And that's why storytelling works. So one essential aspect of storytelling is that it has to be so simple that everyone can understand it. And that's why storytelling works, because it's simple to understand, right? So as long as you keep things simple, as long as it's, like, in a flow and it's simple to understand, it's basically a story. So yeah, that's, I think, a good insight.
And just
Okay.
to add what
Mm.
you said, absolutely. So when I said like in front of a mirror, I'll tell you what is the rationale behind that. The person that we judge the most across or throughout our lives is our own self. I'll give you an example. Whenever you're, most of the people do this, and they do it either consciously or subconsciously. Whenever you're passing uh, a glass building or in a mall where there's a mirror, automatically we look at the mirror just to see our own reflection. And that is a very common thing. You would, even if you're old, young, you're good looking, you're not good looking, it's just a thing that we're so used to while we're growing up. So when you look at yourself in the mirror, right, you're constantly judging yourself. And if you're able to tell a story to yourself which sounds interesting to you, the other person will find it even more interesting.
True. True. All right, some common mistake we ignore in sales.
Common mistakes is oversell. Like in the early days, I did that because at all, you need to understand the stage at which the buyer is, right? Firstly, the first stage is that he does not care about your product at all, and you would feel that. Second is he's curious enough to understand more about it, and third is that he's interested. Once you toggle him through multiple stages, once you've gotten him to the interest stage, and either he accepts it that I really like it, and what are the next steps? A lot of people that do is they don't stop there, and even in most of the pitches also at Discord, they keep going, they keep selling, and that kind of depreciates your own value. So know when to stop. You don't have to speak a lot, but
True.
you have to listen a lot, and you have to act on those listening points. So I think that's a very rookie mistake a lot of salespeople do.
True. Okay. Does politics, okay, this is an interesting one. Does politics creep into the sales department, or is it black and white? By Velgore.
So I'll tell you two things. So politics, generally, it's not in a sales ecosystem. It's generally in a company. So if there is politics in a company, it will seep into each and every business function. And most of the times, what happens is when people have that outlook, right, it's generally not politics, but you've convinced yourself yourself that there is politics and you start doing politics. So if you're there in the sales field or any field, as long as you're not doing politics, you should automatically assume that there is no politics. And this will actually help you go the distance.
Okay, Mohit, let me ask you this from like a I want your personal opinion on this because like you're more experienced than I am and you'll probably be able to give me a very articulated answer because you are ahead. So most of the world is not a meritocracy, right? So like the individuals that are working at a high level or are performing at a high level or trying to get to the high level, they're all pursuing this idea of meritocracy. They're trying to level up, right? And like by leveling up they want to get there instead of like pulling people down and whatnot. So when you're trying to like level up and you see like dedicated like dedicated targeting of, because you are just so meritocratic and you are just so overpowered, like there's dedicated targeting that like a group is trying to get you down because they can't level up, so they don't want you to level up, right? How do you deal with that in general, like in a corporate setting?
How do you deal with it is the question, that how do I climb the ladder quickly? Is that could be a rephrased question if I have to do that, because the eventual outcome is that I want to climb ladders, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would basically, if I want to level up, I want to be my boss, then I want to be my boss's boss, and then the ladder keeps on going. So I think a simple observation, and which has clearly worked for me. Generally, in a working ecosystem, it's the other way around. That the managers generally they focus a lot on what you're doing, what you're not doing, micromanaging. But have you ever noticed someone asking the manager that what are you doing, what are you working on?
Not
No,
really.
have you ever?
Like
Not
see
really, right?
see like whenever that usually happens, like like, so you can't ask your manager. What you can do is you can appeal to your manager's manager, that like some mishappening is happening, you can drop in a mail, cc everyone or something like that.
So skipping hierarchies is also, in my opinion, a mistake. A lot of people might beg to differ. I'll tell you how. Because your manager's manager will trust your manager more than he will trust you.
True.
Okay. So because directly reporting, right? So you automatically have a lower hand there. But when I said that, have you ever asked your manager what you're doing? I don't mean that in an offensive way. What I mean by that is, take a lot of interest in what your manager does. What sort of data does he work with? And you can ask this very casually. I think most of the managers will actually tell what they're working on. And whenever you think you've reached that moment, or when you've reached that stage that you're doing your work, as well as you think you're able to do your manager's work, right? You're constantly helping him in his work. You're also doing your work. That automatically means that you can handle more responsibilities.
True.
So whenever, a lot of people that they do is, this is like, this is our own mistake. We get some tasks, right, and we are evaluated on those tasks. A lot of people call it KPIs, a lot of people call it OKRs, and
What's an
we're
OKR?
happy with that.
Like what's the full form of OKR?
OKR is
Okay.
objective key responsibility,
Okay, okay, okay. Cool, cool,
and
cool.
KPI is key
Key
performance
forms indicators, yeah.
indicators. So that's how you get your rating in a startup or a corporate ecosystem. That if you've achieved everything, if you're 100%, then you're a highly rated, like a GPA, right? Then you're a highly rated employee. If you haven't achieved less than 50% or 50 to 75%, then you belong to like a 3 pointer out of four. So that's how your promotions, your hike, everything is decided. It's very objective, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
companies have different ways of measuring that objective nature of things. And the moment you think that you're able to do your whatever is there on your plate, as well as you're able to handle half your managers or more your managers work, you automatically stand a chance to get elevated.
Okay, from Furqan Ahmed, what can be 2 to 3 essential points for a great pitch? Like, what's a checklist? A must-have checklist for a great pitch.
So see, no, there is no checkpoints, and
Okay.
that's something which I hate about uh, the the current generation, right? Because the information is so readily available, everyone wants the shortcut. So I've heard this question multiple times, that give me 2 3 points of a great pitch, give me 2 3 points of a great seller, give me 2 3 points of a great communication. And unfortunately, there are no 2 3 points. there is basic foundation, but you need to trust the process. Unless and until you've convinced yourself that this process is not right, I'll define what the process is.
Okay. I'm
You will
bringing out a
have,
pen
everyone
and
will have
paper.
their, yeah. Now
Yeah.
everyone will have their own pitch. Like the pitch that you might have will be completely different from the pitch that I might have, right? So do not try to, I would say, replicate a pitch that you've heard. Try to make it more original. Try to figure it out, the way of pitching that you would be most comfortable with. Once you've figured that pitch out, right, actually put into use that pitch in terms of your prospects, and unless and until you crack one. Obviously, if you crack the first guy, then you try to replicate the entire process. Now, pitch, people need to understand that pitch is the dessert, and the dessert might make you happy, but the thing that actually fills your stomach is the meal, right? So the process before the pitch, how do you prospect the client, how do you turn from, and even before that, so there is a term called suspects, and from suspects you come to prospects. Suspects is basically
Qualifying a
screening.
client.
Prospects, huh?
Suspect is qualifying a client, right? Like you basically think that this
No,
might be a person.
suspect is your entire pool,
Okay.
and prospects are something that you have decided that you will pitch your product or service to, right? So from prospects, then you've had the initial conversation, they are curious, then they are interested, then they want to meet you, and then eventually the pitch part comes. So you have to trust the entire process from from the start till the end, and never lose belief in your process. A lot of people will come and tell you that do this, pitch like this, you're not doing it the right way. But until unless you're convinced that this is not the right way and it's not working, you have enough data that it's not working. A lot of people have rejected your idea outright. No one's bought it. If no one's bought your product, obviously you will change your pitch. And until and unless someone buys it, your pitch will always be evolving. Correct. Once you've once you've stuck that gold mine that okay, I got my first client, think back. Think back on the things that you did right, make a defined process as to how I actually cracked that deal, and then try to reciprocate that. And keep following that process day in, day out, day in, day out, and figure out your conversion rate. So there's no two, 3 points, but there is a clear roadmap. My roadmap will be first, close the first deal, which is very important. Second, then figure out your conversion rate. First deal can give you the confidence. Conversion rate will give you the insights as to how you can scale your business. If you have a 20% conversion rate, then you need to have initial conversation with 100 people to close 20.
Yeah.
If you need 200, then you can just multiply that, right? Because now you have the
40.
conversion.
Yeah.
After you have the conversion rate, then obviously then you focus more on how you evolve your pitch to improve your conversion rate. And this is like a very, very I would say cumbersome process, and I think everyone needs to trust the process if they want uh, I would say objective success. And there's a difference between objective and subjective success. Subjective success is you're just getting success, but if I ask you that how are you getting success, I will get subjective answers. That
Uh,
okay, this time my pitch was great because I knew that guy, I had this connection. These are subjective answers, but people should always focus towards objective success. If I ask you how did you achieve success, you will actually tell me that I reached out to 1,000 odd people, my conversion rate is 40%, I've converted these, and out of these 15% are key accounts, and from those 15% I'm going to get this much revenue, and from the rest I will get this much revenue. So
true.
that is the key definition of objective
Objective
success.
success. Okay. Lalit is asking a question. Do salesmen also have minimal powers to negotiate the final price of the product if the customer is ready to buy it for a cheaper price?
Yes, and the best part is we decide the price. Because if I tell you some price, let's say a book behind you, I know for a fact that you have to sell that book for 100 rupees. Only you know that information, right? You can pitch that for 150, 200, 250, but you know that I cannot go beyond
Okay, so I
100.
think okay, so tell me something. Say you are selling something to me, okay, and you're selling something. You're selling a book for 1,000 bucks, okay, and I say that listen, I will give you 300 and no more.
So no, I need to understand what is the what is the buying price for myself, right? So if I change that question, I'll tell you how this question will make more sense. I know for a fact I bought this book for 100 rupees. Okay. And since it's an MRP product, you will automatically see the MRP. Let's say the MRP is 150 rupees.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my cost for my procurement for this book is 100 bucks. So obviously, since it's an MRP product, in these kind of retail products, the conversation is directly straightforward. That this is a good book, it's bestsellers XYZ. The the
The entire
peripheral
thing, yeah.
advantages of the book. Huh. And then I'll tell you, you want to buy that book or not. So you will automatically take the book in your hand, you will turn it around, and you won't ask me a question because you can already see MRP, right? But here, if I want to quick sell it, now go back to the encyclopedia days. If I want to quick sell it, in encyclopedia, the previous edition, which was for 2,000, they would sell it to us for 1,000 bucks, 800 bucks, because it would cost them
50% off,
200 rupees
60% off, yeah, true.
or, or 300 rupees, right? So
Mm-hmm.
negotiation is an art in which you get the exact price that you want, but the other person thinks that they won.
Oh, that's a very nice way to put it. Yeah, that was a nugget
Negotiation
right
is
there.
negotiation is basically a way you win by making the other person think that they won. And these are key negotiation skills that I think you can use in each and every day-to-day activities also. That if your mom is asking you to wake up daily and if you want something for her, one day just wake up early and then ask the thing for at night. Because if you're waking up early for her, she will understand that yes,
True.
my boy is finally listening to me. But then eventually, if you ask something, you're automatically at a very, very, good rapport kind of week
Yeah,
with her.
give, give,
And
give, give, and then ask. Yeah, makes sense. Makes
exactly.
sense.
So she'll think that she's one and now you deserve something.
True. Okay, so last question, Mohit, and it's
Mhm.
how to make your seniors understand your opinion when they are not ready to listen and you are correct, but it will clash with their decision.
So there is a conflict, right? How do you resolve a conflict?
Yeah. So like you are right, but you're against someone that is higher on the hierarchy. They are wrong, but it's their decision. It's like an eco battle. How do you get out of this? And this question was asked by Tarun Rana.
Okay. So I'll tell you how I would handle it. So it's a direct case of how do you resolve conflicts. Now, when the question, whoever is asking the question, when he clearly mentions that he is right and the XYZ person is wrong, and how do you communicate? Excuse me. How do you communicate that? The other person will think the same way, right? That he is right and you are wrong. So it's the opposite ends of the spectrum where both the people think that they are right and both the people think that the other person is wrong. So the best way to resolve this kind of a conflict is by talking about the entire thing in a macro out, in a zoomed out way, and figure out at least one point where you have a mutual agreement. So let's say if both of us have a conflict that we shouldn't do this podcast, and you're like, we should definitely do this podcast, and I give my reasons and you give your reasons, it's never going to work out, right? That conflict will never be resolved because I'm stern on my opinions, you're stern on your opinions, and at a subjective level maybe both the opinions are right. But then let's talk about our audience. You tell me that, listen, our audience, there is close to about 100 odd people, and they are eagerly waiting for value. And do you think that we'll be able to provide value? And I'm like, yeah, I think we'll be able to provide value. So here we've come to a point that we mutually agreed on at least one thing.
True.
Now from there, you steer the conversation into what he wants or what you want, because the moment you agree with someone, right, the trust factor increases by one level, and it becomes easier for you to steer the conversation to resolve the conflict rather than just getting into a heated debate that I'm right, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right. It's never going to get resolved.
True.
So figure out that point of mutual agreement.
But yeah, I think that was the last question. And Mohit, is there anything that you want to say, like as your parting words or final words?
I think no parting words as such, but the mission that I'm on is, as you anyway clearly explicitly mentioned that sales as an industry, it's clearly looked down upon, and this is something that is not cool with me. And I'll just take a minute of a monologue to talk about the current circumstances. Now, during the entire lockdown, everyone's aware that the economy has crashed. It's absolutely crashed. And what will be the world post this lockdown is that during this time we have a lot of creators. We have a lot of people who are innovating stuff because they have the time, right? They're making their own services, they're making their own products, and the existing people who are already doing that, obviously they also need to buck up on the revenue, right? So now, once the economy or the lockdown keeps getting relaxed and the economy starts expanding again, something that will really propel this entire industry will be salespeople. Because even if I check on my LinkedIn, there are multiple openings for salespeople, because you can be an innovator, you can be a creator, but you will need sellers to, preach what you're trying to solve. And for companies, a lot of companies are very focused on revenue based targets now. Even if you're an engineer, you have to figure out products which could be monetized and how you can reach that monetary value. And a lot of people are hiring sellers because they know for a fact that revenue is something that makes or breaks a company. That data bubble, that if I have enough data, it will actually help me scale up, that bubble is dying down. And actual focus, the dhanda, right? The dhanda
Yeah,
part of the
yeah. The
everyone
money
will be
moving in
focused.
the economy.
And now this is our time. When I say our time, I mentioned like an army of sellers to actually shine, to actually show that irrespective of what the world throws at us, irrespective of whichever virus hits us, we will keep selling, we will keep getting revenue for our companies, and we will never take no for an answer. So I think on that note, we should actually uh, introspect on this particular thing, and how we as young minds, we as young souls can actually help our economy, rather than just pointing fingers at Modi and at a government. What we can actually do to move shit around.
Mm-hmm. That's genuinely amazing, Mohit. I think you're right 100% on the sales being a driving force of the economy restarter, right? And yeah, I think everyone, okay, so everyone that's watching right now, guys, trust me, Mohit's podcast, where he's going to be giving nuggets on how you can improve your sales skills, is the place to be when it comes to learning sales. So make sure you check that link in the description, and make sure you sub him, and make sure you follow him on Instagram, because he's going to be dropping a lot of nuggets on his stories as well. So make sure you get that value, because learning from the right people is the right way to learn. So go out and do it.
Thank you so much, Tanya. It was a lovely session.
Yeah.
Hope everyone had fun.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone had fun, and there, you know, like in the live chat, there's a lot of thanks for, like, to you, dedicated to you, for, like, answering the questions very succinctly. So yeah.
Awesome, cool. I will take your leave, Chaitanya.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
yeah. Thank you so much for giving your time, Mohit. Bye bye. Good
Bye
night.
bye. See you.
Yeah. Bye. Awesome, guys. So I will now also end this stream. I think it was a lovely session today, right? We learned a lot, right? We'll cover a lot of questions from, like the grammar thing. So very feeble, Bhai Tej Bolo. Take the talk to Discord also. He will be audible then. Oh, it's. I think it's the old messages that I'm getting all of a sudden now. But yeah, it was such an amazing session. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. Develop yourself, Ahmedabad, right? I'm not sure who you are. That was a good session. Thanks. You're welcome, Anshika. Thank you so much for everyone that's saying that the session was amazing. Tomorrow as well, we're going to bring another guest. So we're going to try to bring another guest. I'll, like, get the announcement out at 3 p.m. And like, Mohit is amazing, guys. I think all of us need to show our support to him, and like, just go and check him out on Instagram. Check out his page, because I'll tell you what's, like, the most important thing when it comes to individuals that add a lot of value to you, right? See, all of those things, just like following someone, liking someone, and just like giving that thumbs up, it's absolutely free, right? It's free to us, because if the right people don't make the effort of adding you value, right, you're never going to get the right value, because there are a lot of people that don't know about things, who are posing as people that like know a lot. And Mohit is a cutthroat sales expert. So make sure. And oh wait, you guys can't see me because I've turned down my video. Wait one sec. Sorry. Yeah, but the point is, make sure that you support the right individuals and get your information from the right people, so that when you go out there for learning, you get the right information from the right people. So make sure you support Mohit, guys. He's been a gem of a person coming out, so giving us so much time from his end and answering so many questions. So yeah, I think that's amazing. And let's just show him support. You can also like this video, and you can also leave your grammar doubts on the previous videos comment section, and we will take those tomorrow. So I hope you had an amazing session, and I hope we added a lot of value to you. And now I will also take your leave. So see ya. Thank you. Bye bye. Good night.